Awesome. Welcome, everyone. I think we're going to get started because we have lots of stuff to share with you today, and we want to maximize the time that we have with you. So first of all, of course, a very warm welcome to all of you. We're so excited to be running this webinar. I'm so stoked that I'm running it with Monique. So lovely to be able to talk about this really interesting and important topic of conversation. So yeah, I think with that said, let's just jump straight into it. I'll do a quick introduction of myself. For those of you that don't know me, I am Naomi and I work as the Customer Success Executive, specifically here in New Zealand, and I take care of the accounting firm clients that are on our advisor packages. So that's a bit about me. Monique, handing over to you.
Hello, everyone. For those who haven't met me yet, I run a business called Accountancy, which is all about helping accounting firms get the X factor through marketing communications to their client bases, to stand out in the market, to do what we're all about here, which is make an impact and obviously make more profit.
Lovely. Today, we're going to cover a few different topics. Essentially, what we've done is bundled up all of these different areas into 6 steps that we are hoping you will take away and be able to put into an actionable forecast campaign for this new financial year. So we're going to talk a little bit about why every business needs a forecast, what's the value of a forecast, and of course, Monique's going to be talking about promoting and marketing forecasts. We'll do a very quick overview of the forecast tool, and then we'll have a look at some articles that can support the forecasting conversations that you're going to have with your clients. And when this recording goes out, all of these little items will come away with downloadable content that will go out with the email. So you'll get some takeaways as well. So let's jump straight into it. We wanted to start talking about forecasting by talking about the value of a forecast and why is a forecast valuable. So obviously, as we know, when we step into the new financial year, I know for some of you in Australia, that's only happening later on in the year. It's a perfect opportunity to start talking about what's happening in your clients' businesses. A lot of people focused on goals and plans for the year, and having the numbers to back up those important topics is really crucial. So if you are talking about creating and maintaining a forecast for a business, that is obviously going to provide some valuable insights for businesses. It's going to enable informed decision making. It's going to enable proactive planning. And of course, it will help the businesses to understand and better allocate their resources. All right. The end goal for this is better business outcomes, reduced risks, and hopefully the success, improvement, and growth of the businesses themselves. Maintaining forecast throughout the year means that businesses are at any point able to look 12 to 24 months or even further into the future, and understand when expenses are going to land, what overheads will be happening, expected revenue. And of course, for a lot of businesses, the top priority is to understand their cash flow, so that they can make sure that they can meet all of those expectations that they have on their businesses. We all know that when cash flow is an issue, even if it's a high profit business, the business itself will struggle with that. So having a cash flow forecast, the cash flow part of it as well, is super critical. What if scenarios can also be built off of it? And that's really where the rolling forecast comes in when we talk about maintaining that forecast throughout the year. Building off what if scenarios help businesses to make decisions about potential pathways that they could follow throughout the year. And just to kind of cap that off, a lot of the time we're doing forecasts for bank funding, for one source, if we're buying businesses or taking over areas. What we're promoting here today specifically is these rolling forecasts, that it's not just when there is bank funding or something that's needed, but this is something really important that every business should have and be able to maintain throughout the year, every year. Spotlight loves to say that every business deserves a forecast. So we really promote that. And I know that Monique agrees with that as well.
100%. And, this webinar will come from the perspective, obviously, you're all accountants and doing amazing things, but I've also consulted and worked with a lot of SMEs and businesses, and from the other side of the fence, I can certainly tell you that those that really have this down pat and are really well supported by their accounting team perform far better than those that don't. And I know it's a really big conversation in the market right now. A lot of small businesses are struggling, and we will speak to that as we go and frame up how you can still promote these services to businesses that are struggling. But that's one of the reasons why they might be struggling, right? Is that they don't have this sort of support. So I couldn't agree more, Naomi, and it's such a valuable topic.
Exactly. Great. I also just want to finish off by talking about the accounting point of view. Of course, a huge part of this is helping and supporting your clients, but the other part of it on your side is also this is an opportunity to generate additional ROI for your firm itself. And a lot of the time, the advisory conversation does include these kinds of conversation, so it perfectly aligns with that aspect too. All right. So today, as I said, our goal is to give you some simple steps to write how to run a forecasting campaign for your firm. And I am going to hand over to Monique, as she's going to jump us off with the first few steps, talking into the marketing side.
Amazing. Thank you, Naomi. And of course, when we talk about marketing, to be really clear, we're talking about internal marketing. So that's communications and promotions to your current client base, and then obviously out into the wider market as well. But that's a common misconception that marketing is only about new clients. And yes, we can help you do that. But as Naomi said, like that ROI for your firm is really in cross-selling straight away into your current client database. So with that said, when we're looking at marketing and promoting advisory services, I often hear a lot of war stories from firms about why it hasn't worked, or, that they've been too scared to try it. So go ahead and drop in the comments. One, if you've already been promoting your advisory services and particularly forecasting services, and drop a 2 in if you are new and this is your first time and you are here to lap it up. All right, so go ahead and type in a 1 if you've already been promoting your services, and type in a 2 if you are here to learn about how to do it. All right, so, I'm seeing lots of familiar faces in the comments, Naomi. We have Jag, Karen, Elise, Samantha, Mark, Renee. Awesome, everyone. So a really good mix, probably about 50-50, I would say, of everything coming in. So that's a really good perspective. All right, so when it comes to marketing, a common trap that firms fall into is to offer or talk about a service before there's any interest or demand for it. And so this is why I always help firms get the ball rolling with generating interest in what you want to offer or provide before you offer it. So in terms of marketing, we start by generating interest in that particular service. Then we promote the offer, so the particulars of how you are delivering that service. So for example, the price and inclusions and things like that, and in a very compelling way. And then there has to be some process or mechanism for you to convert that interest into an actual signed proposal, right? So there's usually some type of consultation or selling process that differs based on your price point and based on some of the mechanics of your client retainers and relationships, which we'll talk about at the end. But for now, let's dive into generating interest. So if we can jump to the next slide, please, Naomi. All right, so how do we generate interest very specifically in forecasting services? Cash flow is a topic for your clients and the market that's watching you. So some of these things on the left will be familiar to many of you, but you may not be implementing some of them. So obviously social media is an amazing channel. PDF guides or downloadables for your clients, blog articles, newsletter insights. Some of you, I think, joining us are already foraying into videos or podcasts. Webinars is a biggie. Obviously, just like what you are joining us live here today, you can roll that out for your clients. Case studies and testimonials. So a case study is really a little bit of a more detailed breakdown around how you've helped a client with particular challenge or opportunity, what you did with them. So in terms of the forecasting services that you'd offered and the result or the outcome. I'm going to talk in a moment about why that is so powerful. But basically, I will start by sharing a little secret or a tip around what not to do in this generating interest. And that is, you don't need to share too much how-to style information. So as accountants, you love consuming information as part of your CPD requirements, and it's something you do all day, every day. But your clients are business owners who want help and they want results. So they don't necessarily need as much how-to information when you are looking to generate interest in your services. In fact, that can actually be really off-putting, because it means the only people who are attracted to detailed how-to information are those that are probably too small to actually afford for you to do the service, or They look through the how-to information and they make an assessment that they don't really need to do that. So really generating interest is about sparking desire and interest and the opportunity and what's in it for me. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but what's in it for me from the perspective of a business owner who doesn't know what they don't know. All right, so you know, but you have to assume that they really just don't know why this is important, why it's valuable. And it's a big stretch or a big leap to go from zero to talking about, if it's a big business, it might be quite an expensive forecast without that sort of warm-up process as to why that would be helpful for them and that they can see other people doing it. All right, so next slide, please, Naomi. All right, so this is what I was referencing before, is that you're offering forecasting as a solution. And if you're doing it well and using spotlight tools and processes, as Naomi mentioned, that can be a very high margin, quite profitable and scalable service. But a solution in the market is only valuable in direct proportion to the problem that it solves or the opportunity that it creates. So if you haven't spent any time diving into the depth or the magnitude or the dollar value cost of the problem or the dollar value cost of the opportunity that's on the table for them, it's harder to position a solution that has a significant investment associated with it, because it's then hard for clients to understand the value. So what they're getting. So if you think about your marketing as helping to plant the seeds of the problem, you should spend more time speaking to the problem or the opportunity than you do talking about any of the details of what's inside a forecast, because that's your jam. That's your job as the accountants. The clients really care about outcomes. And Naomi's going to be sharing some very, very cool case studies at the end of this webinar, which I think will really illustrate that perfectly. But can anyone who's already on here identify that perhaps they might have been offering solutions or a menu of services with pricing without perhaps taking the step, whether that be through your marketing or in an individual conversation with your client, to first dive into step one, the problem? That's just something to think about as we go through here, because sometimes that's why quote unquote marketing doesn't work. There's a phrase we hear sometimes. It's simply because there's a little bit of strategy and nuance involved. All right, next slide. Okay, so when Harry met Sally, type in or just write heart in the chat if you're old enough to have seen this movie, and I'll certainly put my hand up for that one. All right, yes, type a heart into the chat. So for those of you who are a little bit perhaps younger or maybe missed out on some popular culture from America during that era, I will share with you a little bit about the impact of this. So in the movie, When Harry Met Sally, there is a scene where Sally is demonstrating a very desirable outcome that most women want. And in the scene, they're inside a cafe and they're seated at a table, and a woman at a nearby table asks the waitress after she sees what's happening with Sally and says, "Oh, can I have what she's having?" Or "I want what she's having." That is the type of scenario, although less X-rated, a bit more PG rated, but that is the type of scenario you want playing out in your firm, in your communications. So you want to be thinking about client success stories you have had or previous clients who've engaged in some type of forecasting service. Whether they paid for it or not, that's irrelevant. It depends on where you are in your journey. But demonstrating outcomes that other clients will say, "Oh, I'd like that too. Yes, I'd like that for me. Oh, how can I find out about that?" So planting those seeds of what's possible, and the more specific, the better. So specificity creates university. It's universality, I should say. It's almost the opposite of what you might think. You might think, okay, if we keep these testimonials really generic, it will appeal to everyone. What happens is it appeals to no one, and it has no resonance or impact. Whereas if you have a variety of quite specific examples, people can see the depth of expertise and nuance that's involved in these sorts of campaigns and services, which is obviously really in advance of what they do in their normal sort of tax and compliance with you. So if you should have testimonials going out that look so good, you're like, oh yeah, if I wasn't an accountant, I'd buy that. Or I should be doing that for my firm. And it's very easy to do across social media, in your newsletters, in everything you do, even in your slideshows or client onboarding processes, just to start embedding this so that you've planted so many seeds before you need to harvest. You've made it easy. All right, next slide, please, Naomi. All right, so once you've done a little bit of warm up and generating interest, you can run an actual promotional campaign. After this webinar, you'll all receive this checklist, and it's an example of the types of communications or activity you should do and a proposed sort of timeline. So it assumes you've been doing a bit of warm up content, and then here's a way to effectively promote your campaign. I guess what I'd love to say is you can do as much or as little as you like in terms of hands down, nothing will ever beat a personalized communication. So someone from your team, maybe a practice manager or client facing sort of role in your team, to do a personalized communication like a tailored bespoke email, phone call. I'll talk about Loom videos in a moment. A personalized communication to a client about their situation and saying, partner name, whoever they are, has been reviewing your business accounts and has identified that this and this would be incredibly valuable for your business and can help you XYZ. Would you like me to, facilitate a call or something like that? So it could be as simple as that. And sometimes the simple things are the least scalable, right? So they're the least, you can't just hit a button and mass send that out. So it's not scalable, but it will be the highest impact. It will be the most effective. So it won't be the most efficient, which I know you all love efficiencies, but it will be the most effective. On the flip side, if you have a CRM and a database and you can send to your clients, then you can follow through on these steps. Don't forget simple things like your email signature, putting a really cool email signature, promoting that service is a really soft sell way to be promoting this the whole way through. Now, what makes a promotion different from just warming up the market or your client base is that it's a very clear, specific offer with very clear next steps. So reach out to us to book a call. In this case, is not a clear next step. That's just a friendly thing you can say on social media to appear approachable. But in the case of a promotion, this is where a lot of marketing falls down, is it's not a very clear next step with it's given a name, a time, exactly what the client needs to do for their next step, and then you can sort of measure that and follow through on that. So that'll be in that sheet, which we'll go through. Next slide, please, Naomi. All right. Now, obviously, you have campaign periods where it's a dedicated focus for you and your firm, where it makes sense because it's a little bit seasonal in relation to the calendar year and the financial year. But you can always be promoting, right? So you can include a voucher for a forecasting discovery session. I wouldn't call it that. We can come up with some better names, but that goes, it's a printed hard copy in every single new client welcome kit or onboarding process. You can be sharing social media or examples in your newsletter well before you ever need to hit go on the promotion. You can be, as you are reviewing client accounts and noticing things, you can be recording personalized Loom videos. So this isn't a video where you're talking to camera. It's not all awkward like this. It's just a screen recording of, what's going on in the back end of the forecasting tool. And with a little bit of an explainer saying to a client, hey, I've noticed a few things. This could be incredibly valuable and could help your business transform X, Y, Z. So you need to wait until promotion time. And that's certainly something we see working really, really well. Even if you feel you don't have capacity or it's not the right time to be promoting, it's always the right time to be promoting because you can just put in a wait list or a time frame. You don't have to take on work at that time. So those are a few tips for you. Obviously, we help make it really easy for firms we work with by providing ready-to-go resources and templates for all of the action steps. But if you have an in-house person who's a bit savvy, they can help you work through these as well. All
Also,
right.
to jump in as well, Monique, because I'm thinking about the conversation we had earlier this week when we met to finalize all the details for this webinar. And we were talking about how it's really important to constantly be reaching out to clients because we all live in such a busy world at the moment. So if you are sending out an email, don't feel bad to send out another email in a few weeks' time or in a month's time, because it could just be that your clients were busy and they didn't see that email. So it might not be that they're not interested, they just have a lot going on. And I know a few of you guys received numerous emails from me about this forecasting webinar we're running, because I know that March was a very busy time and there's a possibility that you might not have seen the previous emails. So that's something that we spoke about as well, is don't be afraid to constantly promote yourselves. Even if it doesn't feel like you're getting a lot of response, you are getting a lot of response. And we live in a very competitive world at the moment with social media, and we all have a lot going on. So I think it's really important to make sure that your content is out there, whether it's on social media or whether you're doing personally directed emails, just to make sure that you're kind of covering all of those spaces as well.
Couldn't agree more. And if we flick to the next slide, we can dive into that a little bit further. All right, so top mistakes for why promotions don't work. Naomi was just touching on the last one at the very bottom. So not enough promotion. That's typically what happens. You send one email, never hear back. Oh, it's awkward. No one wanted it. But as Naomi said, that your clients are just as busy as you. Inboxes are busy. So don't feel shy about offering something of value to your clients that you know will genuinely help them, and giving them that opportunity to say yes. And it might take more than one invitation. And one of the reasons for that, and I'll kind of go through these and we'll speak to that. So one of the reasons why clients may not respond is maybe there's been no warm up. So if they haven't had an email from your firm for 8 months, and then suddenly they get an email, that's, that's a little bit of a shock, right? If they've been seeing you doing cool things with clients and helping create results, it's going to be a lot easier. Wrong client selection. So if you're a larger firm and you're able to segment your database based on, what business clients this would be a really good match for, you're likely, obviously, going to get a better response. The reality is there'll be some clients that are just red flag clients that this will never be a good service for. So it's okay not to push too hard for those ones. Another mistake, no WIFM. If you know what WIFM stands for, you can type a yes into the chat. Otherwise, I'll spell it out for you. It's the favorite thing for everyone when they're making a decision. What's in it for me? All right, what's in it for me? So you need to spell out the value, and the value isn't that they get a report or they get this. The value is the process you'll take them through, the ahas and insights they'll gain. But then more importantly, what do those insights and ahas mean for them in their business? It means they'll be able to make different strategic decisions, adjust their plans, and we'll dive into some of those things in Naomi's examples at the end. But that's really, really important. And it's a good one to bounce with people in your firm or in your world who aren't accountants, and, try to articulate that value. No social proof. So that means you need to have testimonials or examples of other people doing this and saying yes. And if you don't have a single one in your firm, reach out to the Spotlight team. You can probably use a sort of a generic example. No scarcity or urgency. So this is the other one, right? People need a time frame to make a decision, and a reason to take action. We're all like this. We're all human. So if there's no scarcity, so that means that potentially there's a limited number of sessions available, which is often very genuine because you might only have a certain amount of capacity. Or if there's a deadline, so they have to say yes by a certain date, it gives you a reason to send a few more communications or reminders. And what you will find, and this happens to our clients we work with who implement these strategies, most people will say yes at the last minute on the very last communication. And you positively reinforce, okay, we had 10 available, there's now only 4 left. Hit reply, let us know straight away. Or your person doing the follow-ups on the call can let them know, hey, partner name has already, pretty much booked out. I'm holding one space for you. Would you like to take it? Type of thing. And you can do that very authentically. So you never make up false reasons. They're all true, but it's human behavior and it works. And then, as we said, just simply not enough promotion. And it's probably not as much promotion as you think it is compared to how hard their inboxes are being slammed by business coaches and all sorts of people charging top dollar to your clients to give them really bad advice that if they actually had a forecast, they would know they shouldn't be making those decisions, right? So it's so important for you to get in with this sort of meaningful work. All right, next slide. And then another thing to just bear in mind is even if you do run a promotion and for whatever reason you didn't get the uptake that you were hoping for on the first round, just remember that marketing is a compound investment. So the more you put in to the marketing piggy bank, the bigger the yields grow over time. So what that means is this year you run a campaign. Some of your clients see the campaign, but for whatever reason, it's not the right time. It's not right for their business fit. But it's planted a seed. And then when you go to run the campaign again next year, they're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And so you've already got more familiarity and trust and credibility because they can see you're a firm that is constantly committed to offering superior services in the market for your clients. And every firm we speak to wants a better caliber of client in their firm. And you have to show those clients that you are a better caliber of firm and you can support them in a better way. And don't underestimate how important that is.
Yeah, I love that comment. I'll just jump in over here as well because it makes me think about what you were talking about with the relationship and the warm up. Even if this just ends up being something that doesn't yield the results that you want, it's still a part of that warm up and it's still a part of showing your clients that you are there and you do want to have these extra services with them. And it also makes me think of that saying, bad publicity, no publicity is bad publicity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just because in the same way that people will watch your social media and read your newsletters and they'll never like or comment on anything, and then you'll connect with them later and they say, oh yeah, I saw you guys doing this, I saw you doing that. And because there's no way of you knowing, you have to trust that it's human behavior at play and it all comes together and it all works together.
Yeah. And it can definitely feel discouraging if you have made attempts to reach out before, but you haven't gotten the results. So I'm just really glad that you're reiterating this, Monique, and that this is a part of marketing as well. So there's no need to be discouraged. Always be proud of the reach outs that you have been doing and just continue to do that.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. So thank you so much, Monique. I could listen to you talk about marketing forever. It's time for me to jump in now and switch over to the spotlight side so we can share a little bit from the spotlight end how we can support this conversation. So we've touched on marketing, how to do some marketing, how to get the yes from a few clients. Now we want to look at actually delivering those forecasts. So what I'm going to do, we're going to look at some practical examples. So I'm going to exit my slides and I've got some screens set up over here. Spotlight Reporting has a platform called Transform in Action. So if you don't know about this and you want to access it, you can reach out directly to me after this and we can sort that out for you. It's currently free and available to all of our Super VCFO clients and up. And this is one of the articles that's in there under the forecasting section. And as you can see, it's called a forecasting cheat sheet. So this document can support you when you're having these meetings with your clients to talk about forecasting. And it's a really good idea for you to go and to review this and to just get a little bit of some tools in your toolkit. So when you're having those conversations, you know what sort of questions to ask to get the right answers from your client. And you guys can have an idea of how you want to build this forecast so it can best support their business. And you can see there's quite a lot of questions on here. We've got some tips for engaging in services there, and we've also got all of these topics to consider. And most of these will be familiar to you as well. So we've got this amazing document. This will be sent to you after this webinar as well. So you can download it, share it with your team, and use it.
That's such a great point, Naomi, because we speak with a lot of firms where it's not just the partner or someone at the top who needs to be across this, but having a structure like that to scale within your team and train your team, I think is amazing.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to touch on later again, talking about standardizing some of the processes in your firm when it comes to doing something like forecasting. And these documents can definitely support that. And you can take it and use it as you wish, tweak it slightly if there's something else you might wish to add in there. It's going to give you a really good starting point, or hopefully it's already perfect and you can use it as is. All right, so that was the cheat sheet. And this one is called How to Prepare Cash Flow Forecast. Really important also to read through this before you meet with their client. And also throughout the process, you'll see that these two that I'm showing you right now can support the process throughout. So when you have your next meeting or after you've done the forecast and you're delivering it. So these articles can support the whole journey of this rolling forecast. And over here, we're talking about separate sections, the sorts of questions that you can ask when you're covering those different topics with your clients. So revenue, cost of goods, overheads, are they planning on making any changes? Do they need to look at cutting down on rent? Are products still viable? Should they look at finding new suppliers, etc.? All right. So that is step 3. Step 4 is to attend one of our forecasting power hours. So we are running one live on the 30th of April, and you can join on that. We will include the link in there. If you do not want to wait until the 30th of April, reach out to me and I can send you a recording of one that was done a month or so ago. And this will give you the training of the forecast tool itself. So we want you guys to feel confident that you can go in and use that forecasting tool. Richard Phillips will be running that. He will drill down into detail of the forecast tool. You can ask questions at that stage. So if you've already started to work a little bit on the tool and you have some questions that have come up, that's a great place to go and ask that as well. So please, once again, the link will be sent out with this webinar and you can go and register for that. All right, so that was step 4. Step 5 is to create your forecast. So what I'm going to do now to support that step is we're going to log into Spotlight Reporting and I'm going to run through the forecast tool. Now, this is just going to be a 2-minute overview of the process flow of the tool. And then obviously that power hour training would then support a deeper look. All right. So if some of you have not used our forecast tool in a while, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview. Once you've logged into Spotlight, you'll click on the forecast tool at the top here. We're going to go add a new organization. And I'm just going to call this webinar example. This obviously would be the name of the client that you're building the forecast for. I have got another one set up in case we get stuck. You're going to choose your data source. So for a lot of us, that means Xero. I'm going to choose Xero at this. It's going to redirect me to Xero. I'll choose the right account. And we'll form that connection. Now Spotlight has access to that data information. And now I'm going to say what I want to import. So I'm going to import my actuals. And if I know that they have a budget in there as well, I'm going to import that too. It's really important to think about the data that you want to pull in. You might want to pull in the last 10 years worth of data, but it's probable then that import's going to be quite slow and sluggish. So think about the usefulness of the data that you're deciding to bring in as well, so that you can make sure that that import happens really smoothly and you're only using data that's really relevant. So I asked Richard Phillips, who runs our support and training here in New Zealand, what is the most popular choice to use when starting a forecast? And he said that normally accounting firms would choose to use their clients' budgets. All right. So budget, if there's one set up already, last year's actuals, those are good ones to start off by doing. Let's see if we can get this in smoothly. We'll watching that percentage. And we are done.
Like Christmas for accountants.
Oh, nothing feels so good as a successfully imported data. All right, we've got our data in. Now what I want to do is I want to go and I'm going to create a three-way forecast. I want a P&L, I want a balance sheet, and I want a cash flow forecast. I'm going to give this a name as well. I'm just going to call it webinar example. I can choose my dates of my forecast. 12 months is a good starting point, especially if you're not used to doing this, but you can extend that and you can go up a couple of years as well. So it really just depends on how far in advance you want to go. With the regular updating of the rolling forecast, you would be looking at those numbers anyway. This is the tax settings. So we've got some defaults in here, but you can change those as necessary for your client. I'm going to choose my data source, and I'm going to choose last year's actuals for this one. But as I mentioned earlier, this one also is quite a popular choice as well. All right, and my task is created. Now it's taken me through into my customized data screen. And this is where I'm going to go make my changes. This is where I've had those conversations with those clients using these articles over here. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to say, all right, we are expecting a 2% revenue increase. We're expecting this, we're expecting that, and we'll make all of our adjustments on this page over here. All right. Once we're happy with all those adjustments, we can go into our customized layout screen. Make sure you've chosen your filter drop-down over here so that all of that information is now included in here. All right, this is where if you've also created scenarios, you can pull in those scenarios here as well, and you can start to get comparison pages too. I can also choose if I want to include or exclude pages in here. And all of my pages will be here. I can go in and I can customize them as well. Once again, Richard will be touching on this in a lot more detail than I'm doing today. Once I'm finished and I'm happy with that, I can preview my forecast, make sure that it's looking really swish and ready to ship for clients, and I can complete, push that out, and I can have that conversation with my clients. And then if that conversation leads to more adjustments, no problem. We make those adjustments, we tweak them, and it's a continually evolving relationship, and it's a continually evolving rolling forecast, as it should be. So that's a really big part of it as well.
It's
All
so
right.
valuable, Naomi.
Thank you.
Mm.
I think that this would also be an amazing article, so I've included it in this webinar as well, and you guys will also get a copy of this. This is an agenda that you can now use when the time comes to deliver this forecast to your client. It's a proposed meeting agenda. What are you going to be talking about with this client? What are some of the assumptions that have been made? What are some of the things that have come out to the forecast, highlighting certain areas? And most importantly as well is ensure there are 2 or 3 action points over here, and a time frame on when those will be achieved, and a follow-up meeting or call is booked. And this is going to ensure that you are going to continue to have those conversations, that they can prepare in it and ahead of time. And what you'll probably start noticing is there's going to be some excitement now, because all of a sudden these businesses are feeling empowered. They know what's going on. They know, all right, well, we want to buy a new delivery van or hire a new salesperson or cut this product line, and they can put it into the numbers and they can see what that result would look like for their firm. So this really is a form of empowerment for your clients as well. And that's a great way to express the value of these rolling forecasts for them too. All right. So that's what I wanted to touch on these. That takes us to step 5, the end of step 5. I also have a sample report here that I'll make sure goes out as well. It's a pretty comprehensive cash flow forecast, but you can have a look at it, see what's in there, and it'll just give you an idea of what that complete product would look like. Right. So I'm going to jump back into our slides.
And that's such a great process, because I think depending on your firm size and number of clients, but even just by completing that forecasting process for a client you think would be a really good match to sell this service to, you can probably jump in, like literally just spend 2 minutes like Naomi did, and identify a couple of really big red flags or massive opportunities. That's then an easy conversation to have with the clients as part of your actual sales process, or to take a snapshot or use that as a Loom video. I know that some of your team, Naomi, are really passionate about. Well, you've got the data there, so it's a great way to start conversations with, especially those higher tier clients or ones you can really impact. So don't overlook that, even just as a strategy.
Absolutely. That's definitely something that I do talk to a lot of clients as well, and encourage them to use that as a part of their marketing reach out too.
Mm.
Beautiful. All right, guys. So I'm keeping an eye on the time here. We wanted to touch on pricing because we know this is an important part of this whole experience. Maybe you already have your pricing for your forecasts calculated. Maybe you're new to it and you're not sure what to do. So we definitely wanted to be a topic of this webinar. So what I've done on the left-hand side over here is I've taken a snapshot out of our monetization matrix that we often speak to clients about. And you can see there in the green, we've got the spotlight forecasting, and we've got anywhere from $500 to $5,000. Having worked here in New Zealand, obviously chatting to a lot of firms, this is quite a relevant amount. We did find that there's a slight difference compared to what New Zealanders tend to charge, which in my experience and from what I'm hearing tends to be between 900 to 1,500 for a forecast. If you're charging less than that, that's okay. If you're charging more than that, that's great. But we found that in Australia, there's a bit of a slight discrepancy. Monique?
Yes, I have found overall, not just for advisory services, but even tax and compliance across the board, Australian firms are able to charge a little bit more. But it's always an opportunity to position it really well within your firm. Just to play devil's advocate, just to reopen the chat for everyone, just type in, if you're game, what's the most you've ever charged for a forecast? Because obviously, as we know, forecast is a little bit different for a small business versus a very large and complex business. But if you're game, just type that in because it showcases the opportunity. We've certainly heard amounts anywhere, or certainly in Australia, from just under 2,000, north of 10, 15,000, obviously, for bigger businesses, but less in New Zealand. So it is about identifying the right business match and then positioning the service at a certain level. And one thing I think is really interesting that we hear sometimes that holds firms back from starting to promote and deliver forecasting services is partner bottleneck. So if a partner has to do a fully bespoke quote or proposal for every service or every forecast, is really going to slow the whole process down. So as Naomi said, around productizing and sort of having tiers or categories for where different levels of business size or complexity might sit, so that you can sort of more easily identify where that's at. And you might still have final sign off, obviously, but can just help speed up that process and also manage expectations internally. And you're not going to be having a conversation with a client who because you can see their financials, may not make sense. But on the flip side, don't underestimate your clients. Don't think just because a business is struggling that they can't or won't invest in the service. In fact, the fact that a business is struggling might be the very reason why this could be the most important thing that they do, or the most important thing they invest in with you. And there's some real challenges in the economy and the market at the moment. And honestly, we're speaking with a lot of businesses, a lot of accountants, looking at failure rates. For some businesses, if they don't get some really solid advice to help map out their next 12 months, it's going to be real dire straits when it didn't necessarily have to be. So spending money to save a business is always a worthwhile investment. Spending money or investing money to supercharge a business or take advantage of opportunities in the market is always a great investment. So don't be shy if a business is struggling with their cash flow or finances. That is the reason to position this service to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to use that point to segue into our last slide, where we talk about examples in the market. And I want to look at that first point where I say hand-to-mouth businesses. I have a client, a firm that's joined Spotlight, and they're using our forecasting tool. And his passion was the mum and dad businesses that were falling under his place. And he reached out to them and he said, look, I know that you're kind of living hand to mouth. You're not even taking a salary for yourself right now. What if we build out a cash flow forecast and we say, all right, if you want to take 10 grand a month from the business every month, what is this going to look like? And he got 5 of these little businesses that said, that sounds absolutely amazing. And he's now supporting them with forecasts. And these businesses are finally, for the first time since they started, are able to actually draw a bit of money out for themselves, which often is one of the reasons you do start your own business. And I think that's such a great example because these were literally hand-to-mouth businesses. They're not making a lot of income, but they could see the value in getting that forecast. And now finally their businesses are actually running. They're more motivated and they're more regular in terms of being able to monetize and get their cash out. So that was the one example in the market that I wanted to share. I'll also touch on this hospo company that one of my accounting firm clients told me about. It happened in Auckland. It was a couple of years post-COVID. They were still struggling. They're a big umbrella company. They've got lots of subsidiaries, hundreds of people working for them. And they were at the point where they were on the point of declaring bankruptcy. So the accounting firm built a forecast. They did various scenarios. And this hospo company was actually able to stay open because the forecast showed that things would improve, and they were able to save hundreds and hundreds of jobs. So once again, that is a perfect example. They were kind of like at the end of the road. They could easily have said, we can't afford a forecast. No, thank you. But they went ahead, they did it. This accounting firm charged a really nice amount as well. So it wasn't like they did it to be friendly as a freebie. And it ended up saving this hospo company, and they're still operating today. And then the last one that I've put there, tradies. Everybody knows that tradies are struggling at the moment. I have a little firm that the partner used to be a tradie. The wife is an accountant. So they've now started a little accounting firm, and they are now supporting tradies at the moment. And they specifically build out forecasts so that they can help these tradie companies to be able to get through this difficult time right now. And once again, these are not wealthy businesses that are saying, oh, yes, we have thousands and thousands of dollars to give you just for nothing. These are guys that are honestly struggling, but they can see the value in those forecasts, and they're able to continue their business or make the tough decision, obviously, because sometimes that is the result as well. So I just wanted to showcase these three examples just to show that it is a really amazing offer for you guys to go and support your clients and to bring them the value, and just to bring it all the way back around to what Monique was saying, where it's basically about understanding your clients and what value they need. So you guys know your clients, you know the industries that your clients are in, you know the language, you know what their struggles are, and you can use this in your marketing to reach out and show them the value, because as Monique said, what is in it for me? You can show them what is in it for them by showing them the value and answering the questions that you know that they have.
I love that. And just to circle to what Naomi was saying is I really love those examples that really highlights the value. And there's a difference between quote unquote selling a forecast, which is just some type of product really, or a solution, versus selling a transformational opportunity. So in that case, the hand-to-mouth business, they were investing in a forecast so that they could create a future where they had a consistent salary and an ROI for their effort in the business. They weren't really buying a forecast. So even though we call it a forecast and we're selling it, your whole marketing and communications is around more transformational outcomes, tangible outcomes, because that's what has people say yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, we've gone slightly over time. I hope that it's been worth it. We did want to open up the space for any questions and answers, or any questions that might come through that we can maybe answer. So please feel free to pop those into the chat and we can read them.
All right. Now, I don't think Naomi can see the chat, so I can see the chat. So I'll read out the questions. And while we're waiting for a few questions, Naomi, I'll just share with you some of the prices that have been popped in the chat, a really big range. So from like 2,000 to 3,000, upwards, some sitting around 6,000 to 8,000. So you can see that it's a really good profit opportunity for your firm, and also a way to make a meaningful impact for your clients. And I guess when we were talking about pricing earlier, you can either price these as one-off sales, but ideally you can get your firm into a position whereby you can look at bundling forecasting as a service that's included for all of your business clients, and it's part of that monthly annual retainer, so that they're getting it, and you're part of that ongoing conversation and relationship that Naomi talked about, where you then can continue to add significant value. So hit us up with any tricky questions you have, any difficult questions, anything that's holding your firm back from promoting and selling and delivering more forecasting. I can see that there's actually quite a few of clients that I know in the chat, so don't be shy. Go ask us anything tough. Otherwise, I guess that was our sort of final recap, wasn't it, Naomi? That it's really important. And the more the market is struggling, the more we'd love to see firms prioritizing these services. And one thing I will share is we often hear a lot of firms get stuck because we talked about all this marketing and promotion, but That's all what you need to do, but they're still like, okay, but how or what's in it? And so that's where the likes of the company that I run provide ready to go scripts, communications, all the thought bubbles and ideas, and really sexy looking, if I can say that on an accounting webinar, graphics to make it look tangible and real and enticing and exciting, because accountants aren't competing with other accounting firms. You are competing with the world wide web of business gurus, business consultants, TikTok gurus, LinkedIn influencers. That is where businesses are spending their money. So we want to make sure that you're in the front row for that, so that it's done strategically. All right, I can't see any questions coming in, so we must have covered a lot for everyone. And there will be more to come, obviously, in the follow-up email, which I think will be very, very juicy.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for watching. In our slides, we have included a QR code. So if you're more interested in accountancy and hearing a little bit more about them, you can just follow the QR code. And then I've also included a slide in here for myself. So if you have any questions whatsoever, you're most welcome to reach out to me. I've obviously also popped our website in there, and also you can just directly email our support@spotlightreporting.com. But come through me. I'm very friendly, I promise, and I will send you to the correct person if I can't help you myself. But other than that, thanks so much, Monique, for being on this webinar with me.
Thank you for having me. And thank you so much to everyone who has given up a bit of time this morning to look at proactive solutions for their firm. We're stoked to have so many of you join us live.
Awesome. I think we'll stop it over here. So yeah, have a great one, everyone, and keep a lookout for the recording to follow this. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone. Bye.